I'm about to say something that a lot of fans of this game don't ever want to hear. If you happen to be one of those, feel free to turn off the video right now. Click dislike. Tell me off in the comment section. I don't care because it needs to be said. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is overrated. I've given this game 2 chances already. Played it when it first came out, thought it was fine. Good game, I had fun, whatever. I just didn't think it was a 10 out of 10. There were things about it that kind of annoyed me. But Tears of the Kingdom is due to come out any day now, so I decided, let's give it another go. Maybe this time I'll see it as this perfect masterpiece, like so many people do. No, it is definitely overrated. Almost everything I love about it is undermined in one way or the other. Gameplay mechanics that were implemented in some inefficient way. Odd design choices. Little issues that the longer I played it, the more of them I would notice. What makes it overrated is the fact that all of these 10 out of 10s that it got barely mentioned, if at all, any of its obvious flaws. Were this any other game, it would have been held accountable for these things. I feel that because it was a Legend of Zelda game, it got a free pass that it should not have. There are too many things here that make playing it far more tedious than it should have been. Besides that, I have a problem with almost every aspect of this game. From its practically non-existent story, combat that shoots itself in the foot, exploration that loses any sense of progression about a third of the way through, samey bosses, almost everything. I'm not gonna mince words here. I heard too many videos where the people were trying to complain about it and riding the fence, doing this whole, well, I loved the game a lot, but there were things about it I didn't love so much. Like they were almost afraid to offend the mega fanatics. No, this game has issues that it should have been called out for, and it is not worthy of a 10 out of 10. Little things, like its inventory menu. The way the thing works is you use the right analog stick to cycle through all these inventory tabs. The longer you hold it, the faster it goes. What usually happens is you'll fly right past where you want to go and have to back up. It is a clunky mess. And there is such an easy fix to this. For some reason I cannot understand, this game uses both sets of shoulder buttons to change submenus. How about this, okay? It's a bit of a revolutionary idea. I'm no programmer. I don't even know if it could work. But instead of using the right analog stick, you take one of those 2 sets and use it on the inventory. Just click L or R. Then you can use the right analog stick to change pages within an individual tab. The left stick picks a specific item. Problem solved! Just like that. What frustrates me is that so many of my issues with this game had simple fixes. Some random jackass like myself could solve this on the fly while playing, but the mighty minds at Nintendo were unable to do so? It's absurd, and they should be mocked for this. I know some of you are hearing this and thinking it's a ridiculous nitpick, that I'm just digging for reasons to hate on this game. I get it. Normally I wouldn't even complain about this sort of thing if it wasn't for the fact that I had to access this menu so often. Dropping weapons to pick up better ones, using consumables, or dealing with temperature changes. Especially when you're in the desert, for example, where it'll get both hot and cold, meaning you have to use this garbage menu twice as often. Overall, I like this game's dynamic weather systems. It's a relief that walking through the snow might actually get you killed if you're not prepared for it. The game goes about this in one of two ways. You could drink a potion or eat a food, some random thing that you crafted, or you could change your clothes accordingly. In theory, this is a great gameplay mechanic, but in practice, neither one of these two methods were particularly efficient to use. I preferred changing out my clothes over crafting stuff. Not just for weather protection, but other purposes. Certain outfits have a set bonus, increased swim speed, or a damage boost to certain enemy types. These outfits were very useful to me. I found myself changing in and out of them the entire game. The problem is, there is no simple way to go about this. You have to put on each individual piece one at a time. They could have added, a tab with all your complete sets that you could put on the whole thing all at once. Streamlining the menu would have made this a bit smoother. I think they should have just had you do this in real time. Hold down the run button while you're standing still to bring up a quick swap menu, just like you have with your weapons, and change them out on the spot, eliminating any need there is to go into the menu for this whatsoever. The cooking, on the other hand, I did not like one bit. I heard so many people say they love the cooking. I do not understand why. A turd, by any other name, is still a crafting system in an open world action adventure game. You could call it cooking all you want. It does not change what it actually is. I cannot stand crafting in most games. There are some genres where it is a part of the core gameplay loop. In a game like this, all it serves to do is kill the pace of play. You just want to go out there adventuring, making discoveries, exploring the land, getting into fights. But no! You have to stop every couple of steps to forage berries or collect mushrooms, hoard a bunch of junk because you don't know if it might be a vital crafting component. Unfortunately, you do need to cook something to protect yourself early on before you found the appropriate outfit. Luckily, these are all really easy to find, and once you have them, there is no need to cook for this purpose any longer, which is great. The less crafting I have to do, the better. I am so tired of these crafting systems getting in the way of a fun gameplay loop. They're everywhere now, making me collect a bunch of junk or stop at workbenches to make something I could have just bought somewhere. I just want this crafting fad to finally die off from mainstream gaming already. Just stay in the genres where it actually belongs. Jeez. Okay, I went on a bit of a tangent there. Let's get back on track. Beyond my personal dislike of crafting systems, this one in particular is a bit of a mess. For starters, there is no in-game recipe book. This is so stupid. The developers in charge of this game should have all been fired for not having thought this up. What are you supposed to do, huh? Memorize all of them? Write them down in a little notebook you keep next to you? Yeah, if you already have the item, it'll list the ingredients. But if you don't, good luck, buddy. I guess you're gonna have to go Google it. This omission is completely unacceptable. There's also no way of making multiples of the same item, which is twice as annoying considering it's a multi-step process. You have to go to your inventory, pick each individual item, drop them in the cooking pot. Skip that cute little animation with the ingredients bouncing around in the pot. Then tolerate an iconic Zelda jingle as it shows you what you made. If you have to craft like 6 of something, you will repeat this process over and over and over again. The cooking in this game wastes so much time and perfectly exemplifies what I said at the beginning of the video about gameplay mechanics that are implemented in some inefficient way. There are so many examples of this kind of time-wasting, superfluous nonsense littered throughout the game. Little things like NPC interactions that take way longer than they need to because of their repeated dialogues. Or the Zelda jingles, which happen way too often to even be special anymore. When you open a treasure chest, or find a Korok seed, unlock a door, finish a shrine quest, or cook. It's a couple of seconds here and there, but when you do this 8 billion times in a playthrough, it really builds up. I just want to trade some stones with this fish guy, but have to put up with him counting each individual piece, one at a time, 8 times in a row. Or I want to get my horse out of the stable, but have to skip through the stable master telling me, for the 100th time, about my horse's stamina. Like I didn't already know this. Or it's a little unskippable cutscene. My personal favorite is upgrading my clothes, which is a showcase of these wonderful features all in one place. You've got the unskippable cutscene of the fairy popping in and out of the water. A skippable animation of her interaction with Link. The little Zelda jingle as it shows you the new clothes. And her telling you, yet again, about set bonuses. And I'm not even going to get into the implications of these interactions with Link. Let's just say he doesn't seem very comfortable with the way these ladies are treating him. And leave it at that. Some of these things just feel like pure self-indulgence, as if Nintendo thinks its fans are gonna all cream their shorts every time they hear one of these Zelda sounds. So they added them as often as they possibly could. Other things are just redundancies that could have been easily dealt with. Just program the game to recognize you've had this interaction before, so you don't have to keep repeating it. None of these little things are vital to the gameplay. If you don't mind them, that's fine, great. Maybe it's just me and they got on my nerves. But the cooking? That's a core mechanic. Like the menu. You have to use your inventory. You have to craft things. Half the areas in this game will kill you if you don't. These recipes are actually useful and provide a broad range of benefits. Crafting them should have been a quick and easy process, but since it took up so much time to do, I stopped wanting to bother with it altogether. I just took the path of least resistance and mostly made healing items, which themselves are actually kind of broken. You've got all these recipes you can make, but why should I bother baking a cake or making a paella when a handful of radishes will regen all of my hearts and grant me extra ones? These hearty ingredients are fairly common, and their dishes render virtually all other healing recipes worthless. They also had the weird effect of kind of killing my motivation to keep finding shrines, which are like 90% of the content in this game. When I first started playing, I was hyped. I'm wandering around, there's treasure chests everywhere. I'm collecting these little Korok seeds, which I'm going to use to up my inventory slots so I could carry more weapons. No matter what direction I went, I discovered another shrine, which is great. I get to beef up Link, get him ready for this grand adventure ahead of him. Then you keep playing, and you find a lot more treasure and more Korok seeds. And look, another couple shrines. Awesome. Let's get some more hearts in me. Then you keep playing and you find more Korok seeds and more Korok seeds and more Korok seeds and another couple more shrines and more Korok seeds and more Korok seeds and more Korok seeds. And at one point, it hits you. That's all there is out there. Just shrines and Korok seeds. It is such a waste of this massive world. I can make like an hour's worth of video just coming up with random things to do in this place. There's already traveling merchants. Boom! Instant escort quest. Those NPCs riding around on horseback? Join one of them as they, I don't know, look for a family heirloom and have epic horseback battles with a partner. Or make it a chase scene against an angry Hinox. Make more areas like Hyrule Castle, which is my favorite place in the game. I love its level design with its winding paths and multiple floors. I would have loved it if there were a couple of more places just like this. The Ancient Dragons. You have to save one of them from being corrupted by Ganon's purple goo. Why not all three? Add a couple of caves here and there. Make it to where some armor sets require you to go somewhere and retrieve them, instead of just having them on sale. There is one armor set that you can't buy, but I want you to guess where you find it. You'll never guess. In shrines. I can go on and on. There is so much potential here, but even the game's most interesting areas are still associated with a shrine. Or you might just find another damn Korok seed. However, if you search long and hard, you might stumble upon a shrine quest, which has you performing some random task before you can unlock the shrine. Wow! That is some true gameplay innovation right there, am I right? These little shrine quests, much like the shrines themselves, are all over the place as to whether or not they're gonna be entertaining to do. Either way, it's all shrines, all the time, and not much else. The actual shrines, most of them are these little puzzle rooms. Some are pretty neat, other ones an absolute pain. Overall, they're fine. The rest are split between freebies you get from doing shrine quests or something, and these tests of strength where you fight one guardian enemy in an empty room and that's it. These are slightly less fun. I would have rathered more puzzles. As one kind of content in a game full of different things to discover, these shrines would have been really cool. As the only content, they are nowhere near interesting enough nor offer significant enough rewards to be the sole motivation to explore. I did complete all of them. I kinda had to, for research purposes. But if it wasn't for this video, I don't think I would have. I was only personally motivated to collect just enough of these to max out my stamina and have just enough hearts to grab the Master Sword. I didn't even cash in like a third of them. I didn't need to. Stamina maxes out at 3 wheels, and I already had enough hearts to deal with any combat encounter. If I ever needed any extra hearts, just eat a quick hearty food and I'll be fine. So, besides discovering shrines, what else is there in this place? I suppose you could keep looking for more Korok seeds, if that's what you're into. Not that there's anything wrong with that or anything. I am not one to kink shame anybody. There are 900 of them. Go nuts if that's your thing. All those treasure chests out there, you will quickly realize there's only 4 things inside of them. a small number of rupees, a gemstone, some weapon or shield, which, past a certain point, will likely be worse than what you already have, or a bundle of arrows. I found one chest in this entire map that had anything different in it. A piece of armor. Yes, the DLC does add more chests, but that doesn't count. It isn't part of the base game. That is extra stuff you have to pay extra money for. There are NPC side missions, but they're barely worth doing. 99% of them are just fetch quests. All but maybe 3 or 4 offer any kind of reward that makes them worth your time. They don't add anything to the lore or the story. They just felt like pointless filler to me. You could build an entire town in this game, but even that is a massive series of fetch quests. The reward for this? A cutscene and merchants that sell a bunch of stuff you could have easily gotten elsewhere. Beyond these things, all that's left to do is the combat and the main quest, both of which have their own set of issues. 10,000 years ago, Ganon invaded Hyrule and lost. So he comes back for revenge, and Link gets his sorry ass whooped so hard he needed a 100-year nap to recover from this. He finally wakes up with no memory of this whatsoever, and everyone he meets is like, "Oh yeah, it's you! About damn time! Now hurry up and kill Ganon already. Zelda needs your help." So he embarks on a journey to free the 4 divine beasts from Ganon's control, saving the spirits of the champions within, then faces off against Ganon himself to rescue Princess Zelda, who's been keeping him at bay for the last 100 years. This is the entirety of Breath of the Wild's story. The main characters offer so little by way of world building or lore beyond 10,000 years ago, something something Ganon, or 100 years ago, something something Ganon. And they all range from uninteresting to kind of obnoxious. Your 4 champion buddies all have a grand total of 1 personality trait each. You've got Meathead Rock Guy, Strong and Sassy Warrior Queen, Arrogant Bird Boy, and Fish Girl that's completely in love with Link. There are some memories to unlock scattered throughout the game world that will tell you a bit more about Zelda herself. But even she has 1 personality trait: whiny, angsty teenage princess. There is some limited voice acting here, which also ranges from uninteresting to kind of obnoxious. If you're the kind of gamer that plays for the story, you will be sorely disappointed here. There is some nice visual storytelling. The world itself does a great job of showing the devastation of Ganon's attack. Crumbled buildings, flooded villages, traveling NPCs that are randomly attacked by bokos, the way monsters are just camped out in the open, not a care in the world. This is their home now. It really shows this is a place where the bad guy won, which is nice. Now what you actually do in the main quest is underwhelming, mostly because of how similar all 4 missions are, from how you approach the beast, what you do inside of it, right down to the bosses themselves. Like 90% of each mission is just getting to the place. Once you're there, it's like, cool, you got here. Now let's get this shit over with. Let's go. You don't do much of anything before approaching each beast, with only slight variations between each one. A forced stealth segment with its own cute little boss right before you could approach it. Or instead of flying, swimming, or riding at it to shoot its obvious glowing weak point, You launch an incompetent buffoon out of a cannon at it before you can go inside. Once inside, it's just more shrine puzzles with a different paint job and this little gimmick where you rotate or tilt the interior. The 4 bosses are practically identical. 2 phases, one on the ground, one in the air where it shoots stuff at you. You kill it and get this cool little power from the champion you just freed. Even Ganon is like this, but in the opposite order. The first fight is another samey 2-phase thing. The second fight, you ride at it and shoot its obvious glowing weak points. This is less a boss fight than a visual spectacle, a shooting range disguised as a boss fight. The whole main quest just screams missed opportunity. The 4 divine beasts should have been distinct dungeons with their own aesthetic and unique enemy types. The bosses, different from each other, actually representative of the elements they're associated with. Ganon, they should have made it to where after you defeat Dark Beast Ganon, it releases his human form that was trapped inside the whole time, and you have an old-fashioned 1v1 sword fight with him for the fate of Hyrule. This would have been so cool. Instead, what you actually get is kind of disappointing. The last thing left is the combat, which I absolutely love. It is simple, stupid fun, and there are so many options here. You've got stealth, your bombs, elemental damage, using the environment against the enemies, using the enemies against the enemies, the flurry rush, the parry, which is so satisfying to use. Getting into fights never stopped being entertaining and is by far my favorite thing in the game. However, I do have to address the elephant in the room. That one big problem with the combat. Weapons breaking. Some of this game's more ardent defenders will say weapons breaking is a good thing. It encourages the player to use a variety of weapons. This is such a nonsense argument. If anything, it had the opposite effect. Even more so as I progressed through the game and enemies became tankier. I didn't want to waste weapons on a fight versus some high-level bokos. There were fights I was actively avoiding that I would have wanted to get into because I didn't want to break my stuff. After I got the Master Sword, I kind of defaulted to this thing where I would use that until it broke, then switch to whatever random weapon the last enemy I killed had on them. And the Master Sword breaking? This is supposed to be some legendary weapon. What, it needed a break from all that killing you've been doing with it? If anything, give it a hit to its damage output temporarily. Don't make it completely unusable for 10 minutes. Instead of being encouraged to use my variety of weapons, I would only very rarely use most of them, only during very specific situations. This was especially true against the unique enemies. Hinoxes? I barely fought them. I would just sneak up to them, steal their stuff, and move on with my day. Fighting Lynels is fun, but they are really tanky. What is my reward for fighting them? A couple of broken weapons and some crafting material I have no use for. One smith would have solved this entire weapon problem, and could have also addressed a couple of the other issues I have with this game. Make it the apprentice to the royal blacksmith that narrowly escaped Ganon's attack on Hyrule, then have you go on a mission to some unique place to rescue them. This addresses both the content problem and the lore problem. And they fix your weapons, so it solves the weapon problem. Keep the weapons just as they are. If you break one, fine, you lose it permanently. You're given ample warning before it breaks. This would have encouraged me to use my variety of weapons. If one is about to break, I switch up to another one, and so on and so forth. Then I repair them, so I no longer need to worry about replacing them. And as a quick little side note, why can't Link use his fists? This is something my daughter brought up that I didn't even notice until she mentioned it. It would have been awesome to punch a Boko right in the nose, or at least have it as an option if I don't want to waste good weapons on an easy fight. But I guess Link never bothered learning how to throw a punch. So what else is there then? Oh yeah, one last thing. I really love it how this game makes me wait around like a jackass for the rain to stop, just because I want to climb somewhere. Great idea, guys. Make the player completely stop playing to scroll through their phone instead while waiting for the sun to come up, just because it's too slippery to climb in the rain. Again, this is such an easy fix. You already have a climbing outfit. Why not make its set bonus mitigate some of this slipping, so climbing in the rain is at least somewhat doable? Despite these numerous complaints, I really do enjoy this game. It's great sometimes to just wander around, getting into fights, sneak up on some ephemeral steed you found out there, and ride around enjoying the sights. There are so many little touches, like how Hetsu acknowledges you're not wearing any clothes, and both of you embrace your nakedness for a moment. I only mention these things because it isn't this perfect game, and some of these issues should have been more harshly criticized. I am certainly picking up Tears of the Kingdom, and will probably dump like 200 hours into it. I'm just hoping it fixes some of these issues so it could finally be that perfect masterpiece that Breath of the Wild unfortunately isn't.